Hi everybody, it's Mr. Boll here. Hi there, Mr. Boll here with our new history lesson. So this is our Year 5 history topic, the impact of war. In lesson 3 we're going to be looking not just at World War One, but also at World War Two as well. And we're going to be making some comparisons. And we're going to be thinking about this, which you've probably seen. This is the War Memorial down at Bordon and Whitehill. It represents everybody in Bordon and Whitehill. And if it was normal school, we could obviously go and visit, but we can't do that at the moment. So we're going to do the next best thing, and we're going to be looking at this. This is a board showing the names of all the people who died in the wars of the last century, in the 20th century. And we're going to be trying to answer two questions. What can we find out about the impact of war from our local war memorial? And the second question, what is remembrance? Now, this photograph was taken in November when we lay wreaths of poppies here every year, and lots of other people do all around Britain and in lots of other countries as well. And here's the famous poppy symbol that you've seen many times. And we're going to be looking at how this is another war memorial. This one is for the whole of Britain, and it's in London. And it's near the Prime Minister's house, 10 Downing Street. And this is called the Cenotaph. And it was built just after World War One in the 1920s. Here's a field of poppies, and later I'll be asking you to find out, if you can, why we use the poppy. Why is that a symbol of remembrance? Now, you might already know, but if you don't know the answer to my remembrance questions that I'm going to set you, this would be a really nice time perhaps to telephone your grandparents, because I think they might really enjoy talking to you about it. And it may be that you're not able to see them much at the moment, and this might be a really good time to talk to them. Here's the poppy that we wear in November when it's Remembrance Day. And here's a picture of the Queen at the Cenotaph, which is the monument that I showed you in the first slide. And this is on Remembrance Sunday. She's laying a wreath of poppies on behalf of everybody in Britain to remember the people who died in the wars of the last century. And we always have Remembrance Sunday on the nearest Sunday to November the 11th. And we always have it at 11 o'clock as well. And later I'll be asking you if you can find out why. And first, I want us to use our local war memorial as a source of historical information. What can we find out from it? So I'm going to, in a minute, show you a more detailed and closer up view of this. This is the roll of honour of all the people in our area who died in the wars of the last century. So here it is close up, and here, there at the bottom, there's a poem. This is a very famous poem. Okay, and we're going to look at that in more detail as well. Here's the poem bigger so that you can see it. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. This is a very famous poem called For the Fallen. This is often read out on Remembrance Sunday as a mark of respect for people who died in wars. And later, I'll be asking you if you can find out who wrote it. And I also want you to think about what does it mean. Now, I'll be asking you to use the information on the War Memorial to make a chart like this one. So you're going to get your piece of paper or your book and just draw out a table with these headings, the same as this. And you'll be looking at all the names on that list, and you'll be looking at what service were they in. Were they in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force? And then you'll be looking which war did they take part in. You'll put that in there. If they took part in World War One and they were in the Army, then you'll make a note of it in here. You'll also notice on the Roll of Honour that there are people from World War Two, and there are also people there who are from other wars, so they can go in here. So I've made the names a bit bigger here. So this is the names you'll have to pause the video in a minute and pause it onto this page, and then you're going to look and see, okay, what information can I get? Well, here's their number. Okay, so they have to have a number, and here's their rank, gunner, named Charles William Adams. Charles William Adams was in the Royal Garrison Artillery, and he died on the 28th of April 1918. So the anniversary of his death is actually coming up next week. So that's the information you can get from each of these. And when you get the information, you can use that to fill in your table. So we're going to do an example. So I'm just going to come out of the slides for a minute while I do an example. So the first person, Gunner Charles William Adams, he was in the army and he died in World War I. So you put a mark in there. And every time you find someone who died in the army in World War I, you put another mark. But if they were in the Navy in World War I, they would go there. Or if they were in the Air Force in World War II, they would go there. And then you keep going, go through all the names, and then you can add them all up at the end. And that's when I want you to see if you can come to some conclusions. What is this information telling me? Okay, so there's the first list of names. There are 3 lists. The second list and the third list. So there's quite a few to go through. And you'll just pause the video. Okay, on the right place. I'll give you a little bit longer on the second list. And then you'll pause the video in the right place. This is the third list. And then you're going to do your tally chart. Now, to do it, you'll need to know the names, the meaning of these words. Okay? So, a regiment. You'll see that some of the people are in a regiment. Now, that's a part of the army, and it's usually done on where you're from. So you'll see quite a few of the people who are on the Roll of Honour are from the Hampshire Regiment, but not everybody. Some people are from different areas. So that's part of the army. And especially in the old days when some soldiers fought on horseback, then the other soldiers who were on foot, they were known as the infantry. So again, that's part of the army. Then this word, the artillery, those are the people who fire the big heavy guns, and they used them in World War I and II. So that is still part of the army. Now here are some more words. You'll see on the list that there are members of the Rifle Brigade, and so they are still part of the army, and the cavalry, also a different part of the army. And in those days, in the old days, especially in World War I, there were still soldiers who fought on horseback. Then we come on to, what does this mean? RAF. So can you say that out loud? Okay, well done. I'm sure you got that one, the Royal Air Force. So that's a different branch of the service, not the same as the army. And finally, HMS. Okay, these are the people who are in the Navy. This is an example. This is one of the ships mentioned on the Roll of Honour, the HMS Wren. But anything that says HMS is the Navy. It stands for Her Majesty's Ship. Now, of course, in World War II and in World War I, it actually stood for His Majesty's Ship, because they were kings then. And the king in World War II was actually the present Queen's father. Right, so those are the words you need to know. Then you go back, look at all these lists, and fill in your table. Okay, so here's your table. So that's task number 1. And when you've done it, you can take a photograph of that and send it to me on my school email. Now, when you've finished, you may be surprised by some of the things you find out. And I want you to be able to explain to me your conclusions. So, task number 2. You can use my words, but you're going to fill in the gaps. So the first question to ask is, when were the highest casualties? Were they in World War I, or more people? Did we have more people dead in World War I or in World War II? These figures show the highest casualties. You're going to work this out, and you're going to fill in whether it was World War I or II. And then I want you to be able to, like a historian, to say, okay, I think this is because, and then come up with some reasons why. And then the second paragraph, this is about the way the different services were affected. So the three branches of the service, the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, and you may find that the different branches of the service were affected in different ways in World War I compared to World War II. Okay, and then I want you to say what you found out from using the War Memorial, and then say why is that? This could be because. So that's your second task. You'll do that based on your table. The third task is some general questions about remembrance that I want you to find out. Why is remembrance on November the 11th? Why is it at 11 o'clock? Why do we have the poppy as our symbol of remembrance? Who wrote the poem I showed you earlier, which is called For the Fallen? And what do you think the poem means? And final question, why do you think we still have remembrance every year when some of the events were a very long time ago, over 100 years? And so that's your third task. So you'll be sending me a photograph of 3 different bits of work that you will have done. There's a third one, the second one, and the first one. And the work that you sent me before about the trenches was really brilliant. So if you keep up that standard, I'll be very impressed. Okay, well done everybody. I'll see you soon.